We're all social creatures. From childhood friendships to adult relationships, the impact of social connections is quite undeniable. Did you know when we are around people, we may actually appear more attractive? But before we continue about this, make sure to subscribe to this channel so we can continue to feed you nuggets of gold on boosting your brain and behavior. So, also known as the group attractiveness effect, this bias is when we perceive certain people more attractive when seeing them together with a group of friends or other individuals compared to when they are alone. It implies that groups make you appear more attractive collectively than being seen individually. The term itself was popularized by the popular show How I Met Your Mother. However, the effect was coined by Eric Gama. Although it has been used more humorously, the bias itself has been studied by several researchers, one of which was on a paper called the Cheerleader Effect, Positive Implicit Evaluations of Attractiveness in a Group Context by Walker and Voll in 2013. In the study, participants were shown a group of photographs of individuals alone or in groups. They were then asked to rate the attractiveness of the individuals in the photos. The results showed that participants consistently rated the individuals in the group photos as more attractive than the same individuals presented alone, indicating a clear cheerleader effect. In fact, people perceived individuals as being 1.5 to 2% more attractive in a group than when being seen alone, which is quite surprising. Remember, this is the same person, this is the same photo of that person, but just whether or not they are presented alone or in a group. Another study, titled The Group Attractiveness Effect, done by Ray and Rule in 2018, replicated this exact other study that I just talked about, getting photographs of individuals presented alone and in groups. Unsurprisingly, the results were no different from the previous 2013 study. What made this more interesting is that the effects were observed across a variety of cultures and gender compositions. So why does this actually happen? Well, for one, there's the idea of perceptual averaging, which implies that individual flaws or imperfections are perceived to be covered or diluted when there are other faces to look at. Now, while it might kind of sound terrible, it's essentially meaning that the presence of others actually might end up distracting people from paying too much close attention to the small, minute details. There's also the aspect of a group's presence indicating social validation. Being in a group of people makes you actually appear more sociable, which has been shown to increase attractiveness. In addition, when you're shown to be in a group of people, there are social cues and hints and assumptions that can be made about what kind of person or personality you have. You might appear more friendly, affectionate, funny, sociable, and this might add to that attraction level. Groups can also evoke positive emotions in a sense of camaraderie. Going back to what we said earlier at the start of the video, we are social creatures after all. We all have a sense of belonging to some group or another. For that reason, seeing a person in a group can actually have a positive effect, making that person seem a little bit more emotionally joyful because another group is accepting that person. While this bias is a bit more playful, it might be worth noting that this idea is quite important because when we do see people in groups, being cognizant of this bias can help us kind of understand where or how we're looking and perceiving that said person. Now, when you look at a person, it doesn't mean that you don't find them attractive when they're alone, but it's worth noting that this is a factor that does play to attraction. So before we jump into anything with that person, perhaps it might be a good idea to try and see how that person appears to you in a more isolated context, especially if you meet a given person on a date when in a group of their friends. This is also important to note from a consumer perspective, as understanding the cheerleader effect can open your eyes to the tactics marketers may use by putting people in group context. If you see an ad that shows a group of people smiling together, it's worth being conscious that this may be deliberately made this way to trigger a more positive feeling toward that brand. Knowing about this bias is quite useful, but what can we really do about it? As mentioned earlier, it's important to evaluate a person individually, not just them in a group context. Otherwise, what might end up happening, especially in the context of dating, is you might pick a person in the context of a group and then wonder why later that when you're alone with them, you don't feel as strong of an attraction. So you're kind of setting both yourself and another person up for failure. Also, if this bias teaches you anything, is to get to know a person better for who they are. Do not rely on surface level observations and impressions. Try to develop a deeper understanding of a person's personality, interests, and values. So on the flip side, if you're looking to exude more attraction to others, knowing about this bias might actually help you present yourselves better. If you feel that photos of yourself alone are not cutting it, try to socialize more and surround yourself with others. Whatever the case might be, Cheerleader Effect is an interesting account of how we perceive others and the factors that affect our attention and attraction. This can be seen in the context of attractiveness. It is important to note that this is quite relevant to marketing as a whole. By recognizing and understanding that the Cheerleader Effect can create positive attributions in your mind by grouping people together, we can strive to approach consumerism in a little bit more of an objective way and a more analytical way. So if you like this learning about fun cognitive biases like this, make sure to check out our playlist on the right where we have a whole bunch of other cognitive biases, and the video on the left where we talk about the halo effect, which is another way that we perceive people. Also, whatever the case, make sure to subscribe to this channel so we can continue to help you find the golden mind.